Welcome to Scoreography, a podcast about the greatest sport on ice, figure skating. I'm Wendy Buskey.
And I'm Adrian Buskey, and this time we are doing our U.S. National Championships 2025 recap. This is actually episode 50 of Scoreography, so we have a little milestone to go alongside of that. Feels like it's been a lot more than that because we've been doing this for 3 seasons now, but yeah, episode 50. But yeah, we're going to dive into everything that happened at U.S. Nationals, which was a pretty wild and oftentimes very impressive event. But I have to say right up front,
I know where this is going.
The U.S. looked at Canada's inflated scores at their nationals and said, hold my beer, because the numbers here are ludicrous. I mean, there are just so many places where the scoring is just so out of pocket. It is nuts. And I think that this might be one of those times where there's so much to cover and the numbers are so meaningless in some places that I don't know that we'll even get too deep into them other than when we make comparisons between certain skaters and the placements that they had.
Yeah.
Because they are just, I mean, there's just so many places where it was like, that is just ridiculous.
It's just silly.
Yeah.
I'll also offer a bit of a, I don't know what you'd even call it, eating of my shorts to those.
Your shorts? Eating of your words?
Eating of my words.
That's so weird.
But yes, to those who were displeased with us for digging in on Canada's overscoring problem, we see you. We recognize that the U.S. is frankly no better, if not worse, in a few places this time. By starting with the men's, I think that's the easiest place to even point to it, where it's like even Ilia Malinin was laughing at his own score.
Yeah, okay. In the men's here. So as we expected, Ilia Malinin wins here. That was never in doubt.
No.
He did it on the back of a gorgeous short program.
Near flawless.
Yeah, and a absolutely ludicrous free skate. The thing about Ilia is that this is his 3rd straight national championship win, but he has always won sloppy. His last 2 times when he won, he did it with lots of mistakes, more vulnerability than he obviously wanted to have. I think the first time he did it, he won largely on the power of a miraculous triple jump combo, like a triple, triple, triple that was just absolutely unheard of. Like nobody ever even seen it before. And he threw it just to like get the points to make sure that he crossed over the finish line into the lead. I think he really wanted to lay down a perfectly clean, bombastic, exciting, over-the-top skate that cemented him as the most unreal skater we've ever seen, which he's already done. And in the process, I think that he was kind of frightening in places because the fall he had on the quad loop was legitimately kind of terrifying.
It really was. For one thing, he has said that quad loop is eluding him and being like perfectly clean. So he really wanted that one. And you could see it when he stood up after the fall. Like he just like kind of punched the air.
He was visibly angry about falling. But that fall was scary because he landed hard on his back.
He landed on his back in a very unusual way that we don't typically see. He's going so high and so fast, it's not surprising that it would be an explosive fall. But it was also, as he kept going, he wanted to do that 7 quad program again, just like we saw at the Grand Prix final. And even with that fall on the loop, he still kept going for it. And by the time that he particularly got to his backflip towards the end of the program, which he landed on 1 foot, I don't know if that was planned or not, but he did it anyway. I was genuinely scared going into that. And when he landed, it was by the skin of his teeth. And so while he's doing all this crazy stuff that is just unheard of whenever you put it all together in a single 4-minute program, it is hitting that level of like, we get it. You're doing all of the things. But when does it become too unsafe? I don't want to be a naysayer. And like, I know you have to constantly push boundaries, but sometimes it's okay to pull back. After a fall like that, he didn't need to win by 50 points. He could have literally stopped in the middle of his program and just started doing crossovers, and he still would have won. That's how far ahead he was.
Yeah, he had like 4 elements left, and he had already crossed like 100 points in the
his technical.
Yeah.
So like he literally could have just not done a single other jump. I'm exaggerating with the crossovers, but he could have done no other jumps and just emoted and sang through the program, done his spins and been done. And he would have won. It'd have been no problem. But he's Ilia.
I am generally pro backflip because I do enjoy it as an element. And for the most part, I've never really seen anybody do one that actually looked scary. This is the one time where seeing him landed on that one foot and seeing how far forward he was, how close his face was to the ice when he pulled that out. Any lesser skater would have been on their face knocking their teeth out. It was sheer athleticism and force of will that he pulled that off. It ended up being impressive, even if it was kind of scary. But there was this excited energy he had through the end of it, carrying him through, that I just kept worrying was going to turn into something disastrous. And instead, he made it work because he's Ilia. But, you know, the odds are that sooner or later that's going to catch up to him. And that's what frightens me when I watch something like this.
It's very similar to what we saw. Adam Shoham-Fa is nursing an injury right now. And he has, you know, even in his Instagram stories, done some wild stuff in practices and been like, okay, you know, are you watching a skater that just wants to kill himself doing something? Maybe. And it's like, I don't like that phrasing,
No,
Anna.
no.
I know you're being silly, haha, but it scares the crap out of me.
Right, yeah. In the end here, his technical score alone would have beaten the free skate of a lot of the lower tier men. You know, I mean,
again, nonsense scoring. Just absolutely crazy.
But technical wise, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. He had an enormous short program score that was 1:14.08, right? Like, that's already just like
ludicrous
unreal.
Speed, yes.
And his free skate had higher than that just in the technical.
Yeah.
Which is absurd. And then his score for the free skate was 2:19.23 for a total of 3:33.31.
And that is with the quad loop fall and his last combo. I would say it's kind of the triple axel was two-footed, sort of. It just wasn't going to get the best GOE.
Right, yeah. So it's not like it was a perfect program.
No, it was still amazing. We're saying all this stuff. I just want to point out, he so obviously won. I mean, it was absurd. But the scoring was just silly.
That's like an Olympic level, like Nathan Chen type score for a program that was imperfect, but was so technically powerful that it's hard to deny. I love his style. I love the way that he approaches programs and the way it feels like you're at like a rock concert or something when he's on the ice, because it just has that level of intensity. But like so many people will criticize that his component scores just get piled on way too high compared to the quality level of other skaters. That is absolutely true. These numbers are way too big here. Again, absolutely should have won. Fantastic skates in a lot of ways and a lot of brilliance that nobody else can match. But still, the numbers are so wildly inflated that he and his dad are just laughing in the kiss and cry afterwards because they know these numbers are too big.
They're nationals numbers.
Yeah.
But I want to move on to the person who a lot of folks feel like actually won the whole competition. And emotionally, I agree. Technically, no. But emotionally, Andrew Torgashev. That man, I am so excited for, because 2 clean programs. We don't see that at nationals from Torgs. We've been waiting for so many years for him to kind of move forward into that second place solidified presence who was going to be counted on to go to Worlds, and he did.
So we expected Torgashev to be in silver because he was the most obvious U.S. man based on the whole season so far.
Yes, he's been strong all season.
His international competitions have been great. He only was improving as he's gone through the season. Now, you never know what's going to happen in any competition, particularly with the men. But Torgashev here, even, I think he outshined what we thought he was going to do.
Definitely.
These are 2 terrific programs. His short program, and we love that program anyway.
Oh,
it's so
perfect.
strong.
It's so perfect.
He's been doing that for 2 seasons now because I don't think it got showcased enough last season, and he's only been getting better with it. He got a 94-94 out of that here, and I thought that was terrific. I thought that matched the quality level that he gave. Maybe that's a little big in the numbers, but it was really nice.
It was incredible. And frankly, if we're going to be overscoring anyway, I want them to give that vote of confidence to Torgs to basically say, like, yes, we see you. We see the work you've been putting in, and you deserve this.
But that free skate from him, I think, is completely unique of any of the men in this competition, or almost anybody that we saw in this entire nationals, in the way that Torgashev took the ice and the way he performed it, because he came out unhurried. He was patient. He took his time to get set up. He was deliberate about every movement, articulate about every phrasing and bit of choreography in it. It never felt like he let the program get away from him. He had total control of it the entire time. It was like watching like a master performer who knows exactly what they're doing, who's totally confident in their abilities and in their training and doing exactly what he planned to do. And it was
reminded me of Nathan Chen.
Yeah.
That is the best compliment I could give him, is that it reminded me of Nathan Chen.
It also reminded me in places of some performances I saw from Brian Boitano back in the day.
Absolutely.
Because Boitano would have those types of skates where you just saw a person coming out there who was a master of their craft and knew what they were doing, how they were going to perform it. And yeah, it reminded me of that too.
I love that you just dropped Brian into this. Oh, I love you, Brian Boitano. But they are not the only two men at this competition. I also think it's worth giving massive props to Camden Pulkkinen.
Camden, no pops, no flops.
Yay!
Camden has been so notorious the last couple of seasons for popping all of his jumps, falling over the place, being a beautiful skater with incredible skating skills, just lovely skills, and he always has had those. But he has been wildly inconsistent. We didn't know what to expect from Camden here. I can't say that I had high hopes because it just hasn't been so strong. And instead, Camden came out and held his programs together, held his nerve, as one of those ISU commentators likes to say, and delivered really strong programs. They weren't as technically powerful as what Ilia and to a degree Torgs had, but what he did have was a lot of refinement, beautifully put together programs. He skated clean. He did triple a planned quad at one point, but I don't call that a pop because it looks like he course corrected it into the jump where like he knew he would fall on the quad. And so he turned it into a triple, but instead that was a triple that earned positive GOE and was well done. And almost everything else was just spot on. They were really, really nice.
I think he might have also doubled one of his second in a jump combination, but minor things. It was so fierce. I hate to use that word because it feels so cheesy, but just watching him, that's how you felt, because it wasn't just fighting in the sense of like holding on to jumps. It was fighting in the like, he knows what he's capable of and was fighting to make sure everyone else could see it. And it was lovely. But also, and very close behind, you could say the same thing for Max Naumov, because, oh my God, Max Naumov.
Max made the jump from 7th place to 3rd on the back of a terrific free skate.
He got 3rd in the free. It's worth noting. Like, he was ahead of Camden in the free skate, but was in 7th after the short, so wasn't going to quite make up that distance.
Yeah, but his performances here were far more on par with what we've always expected from Max, because he has so much potential, hasn't always come together, but he's this wonderful performer. And here, particularly in that free skate, he was really shining. I really enjoyed that program. I loved seeing his reaction afterwards to see that hard work pay off into something that really showcased him in the way he would want to be seen in front of his nationals audience. And a 4th place finish here. He was 4 points back from Camden, so not terribly far back, especially when you consider that rise that he had been, lower in the rankings. And some of that does reflect a number of the other men underperforming in the free skate, but you expect that with the men, that there's going to be a jumble up. They're not going to stay in any kind of order after the short because, the men. And even when I say that, it's not like any of these other guys completely fell apart. I mean, if you look at Jimmy Ma in 5th, Jimmy was so good in the short program.
Oh, it was a phenomenal short program.
And then his free skate just let him down. And it makes me sad because I would have been so thrilled to see Jimmy on the podium here. I could see he was crushed after that free skate. It's a real shame because he's such a terrific skater, but it just didn't come together in that program.
Yeah, and it's kind of the reverse for Tomoki Iwatashi. He had the not so great short program and then was 5th in the free. Like, he really came out and was explosive in that free skate and reminded everyone, hey, I'm here, I'm capable. The problem that we have seen from both Jimmy Ma and Tomoki Iwatashi, though, is inconsistency. They are both great skaters who just don't often put together 2 programs back to back. And I think going back to Max Naumov, one thing I do want to note is he's been 4th the past 3 years, including this one. So I do feel terrible for him that he keeps being the bridesmaid.
He's Mr. Pewter.
He's Mr. Pewter. So that has to be infuriating, just as I'm sure both Jimmy Ma and Tomoki Iwatashi want to have 2 back-to-back great programs. It's just the struggle.
Yeah.
The men-menning, unfortunately.
I did really like Tomoki here, though.
He was so fun.
His style somewhat reminds me of like Kalmura in just how intense he is. Like, he skates so hard. And I think because of that, sometimes his programs get away from him, but he's a real showman and he was a lot of fun. We saw a pretty solid performance out of Jacob Sanchez, who is sort of the major U.S. men's junior skater right now. I mean, I think he's undefeated.
Undefeated this season in the Junior Grand Prix.
Yeah, he lands in 7th here. I thought that Jacob looks really strong. He's a natural performer. He has tons of charisma on the ice. I don't like his free skate. I think that it's very one note and it doesn't allow him to kind of ramp up and deliver a more emotionally satisfying performance. And so I think that program, at least on the nationals level, doesn't serve him as well. But gosh, he's got a lot of talent. And once he gets his technical up, gets up to senior levels, I think he'll be very dangerous in later seasons.
I had a flash of hope for Liam Kopeikas with a fantastic short that really showcased a lot of his flow and artistry that we've seen repeatedly. Unfortunately, he was 14th in the free skate. Just wasn't his competition.
That looked pretty consistent with what we've seen from Liam over the last couple of years. So much quality in his skating, but it doesn't come together when it needs to. You know, when you look at how strong he was in the short versus how poorly it went in the free, it's the very definition of menning. And yeah, unfortunately, that just seems pretty consistent with what we see from Liam.
Well, let's move on to the pairs. The one competition where it did not go to plan.
Yeah, so in all of the rest of them, the reigning gold medalist held on to that title this year. And I had really expected it to be a 4-way repeat. And what we saw here was a shocking free skate failure from Ellie Cam and Danny O'Shea. But the real story is a utterly magnificent performance from Alysa Efimova and Misha Mitrofanov. When you're at programs like this, you're looking to have the moment, right? And I think that, like, if you look at men, Torgashev has the moment. And Ilia has, in his own way, a moment because it's kind of normal for Ilia at this point. But it's like you can't deny the energy in the place and how crazy it was. And the women's has a moment, which we will talk about in a bit. Ice dance kind of doesn't have that here at this competition, but I think one of the big takeaways, it's already something that I've watched several times, is Efimova and Mitrofanov's free skate here. They were already great in the short program. They were very, very strong, but the free skate, minus a couple of minor little bobbles from Alysa on a couple of the singles element jumps, side-by-side jumps, everything else in that program came together beautifully.
It was incredible to watch. I feel very validated that all season we've been saying, like, don't undersell Efimova and Mitrofanov. They've been consistent. They keep showing up at competitions. And if they're not, you know, the very best by the standards of that particular competition, they're always in contention. They're always working towards getting better. And you can see it program after program. And this really just felt like them saying, we are coming here to win, not to just be considered. And even if Danny and Ellie had won and were better than what happened on the ice, I do think that it would have been closer than most would have expected, just because of how brilliant and emotional that long program was. I appreciated in the Peacock feed, it was Ben Augusto and Ashley Wagner doing commentary. And Ashley mentioned she'd been talking to their coach, and there's reminiscent of Gordieva and Grinkov mentions being dropped here and there. And it's like, there's no greater compliment to a pairs team than to say, you know, you kind of remind me of Gordieva and Grinkov. It'd be like, fall on the floor and cry. But I don't argue it. There is hints of greatness here, and they really came out to say, take us seriously. We deserve to be here.
The drama of that free skate, the way they harnessed the energy of the room and brought it home. When I talk about having a program that builds and isn't one note and helps create the moment, their music is perfect for that, because 2/3 of the way through, it gives you just a bit of a pause and then a crescendo, and they just built on that moment. The crowd roared along with it. And from there on out, I was just goosebumps, just magic all the way through. And I love when you get to the end of a program and you see the emotion take over the skater in that positive way, when you can see on Alyssa's face, like, she can't believe it just happened, that moment took place in the way it did. And then to see them in the kiss and cry, sans their coaches, because their coaches were with the next team. So they're by themselves in the kiss and cry to get that enormous score, to get that 142.87, which is crazily big, to get that vote of confidence there for what they've been fighting for. They were last year's surprise silver. I think they kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of people. And to show up here and deliver as well as they did, Sure, Ellie and Danny might have still won if they had not had a complete collapse.
I think they would have.
But Efimova and Mitrofanov definitively made the statement that they are a team to watch because there's still room for improvement on those programs. Their ceiling is higher than that, but they can deliver under pressure and give you that magical moment. And that's going to be one of those skates that I watch over and over again after this.
Well, and in second, a surprise silver for Katie McBeath and Danielle Parkman. And again, they're a team that's been kind of under the radar. They did not have the best short program. It was okay, but it was flawed. Their long program looked gorgeous.
Wonderful.
Like, absolutely lovely. Not 100% perfect, but they didn't need to be. With a 190.57 here, I think that was a completely fair score. And even if they had not made the podium, I think they were just going to be happy that they came out, especially after the blade problems she had last year, just to come here and prove that they are worth keeping an eye on. They are worth watching, and they deserve some more international love next year to just get out there more and hopefully continue to improve.
So a couple of things I want to note with them is that, one, Katie just turned 30. So for her 30th birthday present, she takes home silver. A thing that I look at all the time with podiums is that the silver medal gets awarded in one of two ways. Either a person loses gold or they win silver. And this is very much a case where Katie McBeath and Danielle Parkman, but particularly Katie, won silver. Seeing them in the medal ceremony, the sheer energy and joy on her, because Katie has been in this sport for like 2 decades, right? Like she's been in this forever as a single skater and then into pairs and has never placed, I think, higher than 5th at nationals in all that time. And so as a skater at 30 to get a silver medal at her national championships is a huge deal. And I'm so excited for them. And you could see how excited she was for that. That is a beautiful moment. And I was just thrilled.
Yes. Actually, one of my favorite moments of the Paris competition was watching the medal ceremony and seeing her get her medal placed around her neck by Ty Babylonia, Paris figure skating legend in the United States. You could see that was just overwhelming to her. Like she was practically fanning herself. Like, I cannot believe this is happening to me right now. So it was great to watch. But moving towards the things that were less wonderful, I do want to talk about Ellie and Danny's skates because their short program had them well in the lead and was just astoundingly good.
Oh, it was brilliant. Their short program was everything you wanted to see from them. It was the delivery on the promise that they have as a team.
Yes.
And it was watching that and thinking, oh my gosh, they might really realize all of that potential here. We might see them win in definitive fashion because that was an extraordinary short program. But the three is like one of the worst that I've seen from an elite level team when it comes to seeing just everything fall apart and in really scary fashion.
Yeah. Them having the problems that they did kind of started early with a hand down on the side-by-sides from Danny, which is not a big problem. That is not a big mistake. However, it was indicative of nerves to me because Danny is the solid partner. He's usually the one who doesn't make very many mistakes. Then we saw the problems on the throws, both of them. It wasn't shocking, but it was disheartening. I think they also had other falls that I'm forgetting.
There was a whole litany of issues. It was a bad skate.
But the truly scary part was at the end.
Their final lift went wrong right from the beginning. They get Ellie up into the air and you see Danny's arm just doesn't fully extend. And you see the quiver in his arm and you see a shake of the blade. He gets her up, although afterwards the element gets invalidated. So it sounds like he never had her fully extended. But there's a moment where like, oh, okay, they've saved this. It's going to work. And then they just collapse at the end of it. Danny sort of controls the fall the best he can. They're both fine at the end, and they have to basically scrape themselves off the ice and get into an ending pose as their music finishes. But it is disastrous. It is so scary in the moment. A lot of times when we're watching these events, because they happen overseas, we're not seeing them live, so we know what the results are before we watch them. But here we're watching it live in real time, and to see that go down is so scary. And there were several times during the Paris competition where people had lifts that failed that were kind of frightening. But this particular time, yeah, it was really freaky.
And well, yeah, I mean, as soon as their end pose, they came out of it, you saw Ellie just look up at Danny and go, oh God, are you okay?
Yeah.
Because she fell on top of him, essentially. And it was very terrifying. The fact that they still got a 112.38 felt generous, honestly.
Very generous.
Again, this is with all the love towards them. They are an extraordinary team. This was just a really bad day.
I really don't understand them being kept on the podium after that program. It doesn't make sense to me. As much as I adore this team and as much as I am happy to still have them represent us internationally because they have been so strong on like the Grand Prix circuit and stuff this year, it doesn't make sense to me that they were still on the podium. I think they were generously scored in that particular instance. It felt like the US Fed making sure that there wasn't any questions about them being sent further on towards like Worlds and stuff.
I know, I agree. I kind of felt like there were two reasons. One was that, and the other was that the other team that you kind of expected to land on the podium, Emily Chan and Spencer Howe, also had a bit of a disastrous free skate. So it was sort of choosing between two failed programs.
Yeah, because Chan and Howe had a really strong short program. They were second after the short. It looked way better than we've seen from them in a while.
To be fair, though, there's also the fact that Ellie and Danny had a 8-point lead going into the free skate.
Yeah, that's fair. Chan and Howe also had a disastrous free. It wasn't as bad as Ellie and Danny's, but it was full of errors. Like there just almost nothing went right in their free skate. It was two teams who had performed really well in the short and then had things completely come apart in the free skate. And notably, they both skated after Efimova and Mitrofanov.
Yes.
So you see your eventual gold medalists just go out there and dominate on the ice. And then the two more Chan and Howe are a more veteran team. Ellie and Danny have not been together much longer than Mitrofanov and Efimova have, but neither of them could capitalize on that big energy. And Ben and Ashley talked about how sometimes it's really hard for a skater to hear that huge ovation, hear a crowd go crazy, and then to come out afterwards and try to skate up to that. And that could have affected the two of them. I don't know, but one way or another, it just didn't work out there. I think what is kind of a bigger story out of a lot of this than those two teams, though, is just how great Audrey Shin and Balazs Naj looked and how much they entered the conversation for everybody, including the US Fed, when it comes to further international competitions.
Absolutely. Audrey Shin is a natural pair skater.
Yes.
It's like she found herself. And every time Balazs lifted her above his head, you saw it. That woman was selling the hell out of it. It was very much the I am in the right place. The one area that they're still obviously struggling with is that triple twist in the beginning of their programs, which I have heard many, many pair skaters say is the hardest thing to learn and perfect. So it's not surprising that she has struggled with it. However, the throws seem to be working. One of them in the free skate wasn't as perfect. She stepped out of it. Overall, on their first nationals effort, they come in 5th and they were 3rd in the free skate. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. You can see that they still have a lot of room to grow, which frankly is just exciting. They haven't even been together, I think, a full year yet. So it was thrilling, and you definitely got the vote of confidence from the US Fed.
We're not surprised because we predicted this pairing before it happened. We were excited to see it come together, but even I'm kind of surprised at how good they look together. They're very opposite from the way Balazs looked with his previous partner, Alysa Liu, because Chelsea is probably the best pairs woman in the air. When you talk about like the triple twist and how difficult that is, Chelsea and Balazs together made that look like nothing. It was incredible, but she couldn't land jumps. You know, like she was
jumps and throws.
Chelsea just couldn't stay on her feet. And Audrey already has that part down. As a really strong single skater, she already had that kind of ability, and it translated over very well. So how quickly that's come together and how much that team looks like a team now. I think the first times we saw them out, we still saw it look a little tentative in places, as you would expect, because there's a lot to relearn about how you skate, either with a new partner or when you join this new discipline. But already that promise is written all over them and everybody's aware of it now.
Absolutely. And they are a young team who is hungry, and you feel it very much from both of them. For being very different skaters, they both have a very competitive energy to them. They feel like they're out there hungry to win. There's all ambition and no tentativeness. And that's really fun to watch. I'm excited to see where they go.
And then a quick shout out for our faves that have just kind of moved up from juniors, although they will be going to junior worlds after this. It's Naomi Williams and Lachlan Lure. These were not terrific programs from them. I think their short was pretty strong and their energy going into it was incredible. They had a lot of problems in their free skate, and there's a lot of technical growth for this team to make. And definitely Lachlan looked pretty blown out after that free skate. There's nobody more fun than these two.
They have the best energy.
Yeah, their personalities, their energy, the faces that Naomi makes, the sense of humor that they bring to the ice. It's so great.
They just radiate joy. There is something so wonderful about seeing them in any moment together. They're silly. They take it, sometimes I feel like how everyone should. They're professional and serious about the skating, but they are not serious about themselves. They don't take themselves that seriously. And it's such a refreshing change.
Yeah.
I love seeing her coming out in the beginning of a program, fist pumping, like, yeah, we're here. Like, they're just so adorable.
Oh, yeah, it's terrific. I do want to addendum this whole thing just by saying that I have every confidence that Ellie Cam and Danny O'Shea can get it back together for the rest of the season, but they definitely have something that they need to pay attention to here because now they've seen just how bad things can go. Hopefully they just get it out of their system and it works better for the rest of the season.
Well, let's talk about some happier stuff because the women's competition was pretty amazing overall.
Oh, yeah, it was terrific. Now, this is again what I was talking about earlier, where like you have the moment here and it comes from the silver place finish. But Amber Glenn landing here in first again, so she repeats her national championship, is very, very exciting.
Yeah.
It was not an assured win here in the sense that she was in third after the short program because her short program was rough.
It was tight.
Yes. I think she two-footed and under-rotated her triple axel, and it just looked a lot rougher. The nerves were very apparent on her in the short program. She looked stronger going into the free, but it was definitely not a perfect program by any means. It was enough to get her across the finish line, but I saw a lot of people say online, they're like, couldn't we just have co-golds? Because it kind of felt like that. It's so close. Amber wins with a 2:16.79. That is a point and change above the second place finish. I don't know that I agree with it. I adore Amber Glenn. I am so happy to have her as our U.S. champion again, but I really don't know that I agree that she beat Alysa Liu, who lands in silver here with a 2:15.33. And I think anybody who watched it knows that Alysa basically lost gold based on her final spin that got away from her in her free skate. But Alysa Liu's short program here is the moment. It is incredible.
It is, I think, the moment of nationals, period. Her short program is one of those things where if you are the type that may be prone to cry at something beautiful, you were sobbing. I loved that at the end of it, Ashley made a comment, I feel like I might cry. And Ben Agosto goes, I've been crying since 10 seconds in or something like that.
Yeah.
And you heard it in his voice. Like, it was just gorgeous and refined and just like a new bit of skating love just came out of Alysa Liu and you just felt it. Everyone in the building obviously felt it, and watching at home you did as well. I think her short program score that did have her in the lead was also just a little bit generous.
By maybe like 3 points or so. Yeah.
But you can't say it wasn't also for Amber Glenn because hers was tight. So she was in third, but she had a 70.91. It was close. So I don't know. I feel like watching Amber's free program, she had maybe the best triple axel I've seen her do all season. It was extraordinary. Yeah. And I'd say the first half of that program was super strong. In the second half, she definitely just tightened up a bit. You know, at the end of her program, she got off the ice and was holding her back and said, like, it started hurting. So I'm not surprised that she had one fall on her loop and, you know, looked a little bit timid going into the rest of the program. However, that was her only fall, her only major mistake. Everything else was super minor. And her technical content was significantly higher than Alyssa's.
Yeah,
so,
and Alysa definitely gassed out in the second half of her program.
Oh my God, I've never seen somebody have that, like, you could feel the lactic acid. And her smile trying to fight through it, just like, oh God, I'm going to fall down.
We've been talking the whole season about how Alyssa's conditioning has clearly not caught up to a full-blown, full-bore free skate yet.
It's getting closer.
It's getting closer, but definitely she was struggling to keep it together, and you can see her just trying to fling her body through those final movements, and so it's not a surprise that that final spin came apart. And because it got downgraded, that Jackie kind of recognized that at Blue Sky at the time, where he was like, I think that's going to be the difference. She's going to lose like 2 points on that. And, and she lost by 1.5 points. So that really did make the difference. And you can
one spin.
You can see it on her face when she finished it, like, uh-oh.
Yeah. So whenever she got her scores and she didn't win, she did not look surprised. What I thought was hysterical was that in the press room, you definitely thought she wasn't surprised because she said she didn't understand the scoring system anyway. She was just like, I have been gone for a while. I don't really remember how all this works, which was wonderful. I mean, if Alysa Liu didn't win the gold, she won everybody's hearts back, because if you didn't already love her, I don't know how you left watching that not completely head over heels for her.
I made a post on Blue Sky when we were live posting through it, where I was like, find yourself somebody who looks at you the way the camera looks at Alysa Liu, because she's so magnetic on camera. I'm a photographer, and you just know sometimes when you point a camera on somebody and they have it.
Yeah.
Alysa Liu has it, where it's like everything else on the screen just goes blurry every time the camera points itself at her, because she is so sharp and in focus, because she has that it factor. And I think as she claims that more, she's only going to become more effective. And that short program delivery is going to be one of the stories of this whole event.
It was the nationals moment for sure.
What do you want to talk about? Both of the top two women had places where they were flagging in energy and their programs were starting to come apart. You can never say that about the bronze medal finisher here, who, when we were talking about in our preview, we were like, we have to really look out for her here. But Sarah Everhart never, ever gave up ground while she was skating out there. She always had full-blown energy, really effective programs, great technical. Yeah, artistry still is a big place where she needs to grow, but she was a wrecking ball out there.
She really was. She had only one mistake on a jump. It was like one loop didn't work perfectly for her. Everything else was not only cleanly landed, but completely rotated and just looked phenomenal and honestly easy. Yes, she needs to work on her skating skills and her presentation. She still doesn't really bring emotion to anything. So I think that will hold her back. However, that technical content will take her far. So I'm thrilled for her to get to, move up into third on that podium. She very much deserved it. And I think the other stuff, this is her first senior year, essentially. Give her time. She very well could be on the Olympic team. Just keep an eye on her.
And then in fourth, we have Brady Tennell, it was notable that this competition had 3 national champions.
3 two-time national champions.
Yeah. Now 3.
Well, now, I guess, because Amber won. Yeah.
Yeah. But you had 3 previous national champions vying for that. So, this was a tough competition. Brady looked so strong in the short program. She was second after the short. Things just came apart for her in the free skate. What you saw from Brady here is what you usually see from Brady. Somebody who is such a strong technical skater, somebody who knows how to get every point out of every element. She's generally so consistent, and her spins are the best in the business. Her spins are absolutely terrific. But she really just looked off balance through all of that free skate, really wasn't holding itself together very well. Unfortunately, I think this was one of those death by 1,000 cuts where that program just didn't serve her well enough to keep her in contention.
After Brady, there's a series of women who may not have been perfect, but they did have amazing moments, like Sherry Zhang. I was so impressed with Sherry Zhang.
She's fantastic. Definitely one to watch. I was so impressed with her skates.
Especially her short program. It was just one of those wow moments.
Yeah.
Star Andrews didn't have the best short program, but her free skate was divine.
Yes, absolutely beautiful. And you watch Star rise from 12th to 5th here overall. Huge improvement. As a lot of other skaters stumbled, she really brought it together. And she's such a lyrical, beautiful skater. She clearly, her conditioning at this point is not allowing her to really have big technical programs. But what she did here was lovely.
But if she had had a clean short, what could have been? Ugh, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I think that Joey Lee and Alysa Gracie both did not as well as we'd like to see, although Joey made a nice jump from 10th to 6th. They're both terrific skaters that just didn't have their best performances here, but I think Joey definitely had something at least to go home feeling better about that free skate. But if there is another great story out of this, it is the 9th place and so top 10 finish for Sonia Hilmer.
Sonia Hilmer, we love you. Best overall skating, just for fun to sit and watch. She is so inventive and fascinating as a performer. I could watch her skate all day.
And she had the highest rated choreographic sequence of any of the skaters in the free skate.
That. Yeah, that's really cool.
She choreographs her own stuff. She makes her own costumes. She looks incredible out there. The programs are so inventive. She does things that nobody else does. And she choreographed like 4 of the programs for pair skaters out there this year.
And other competitors competing against her.
Yeah. So
women's.
It's wild. I mean, so like, yeah, Sonia is doing the work on so many different levels. You know, she doesn't have the technical to be super high rated, but her programs here were dynamite.
Well, let's finish this up with a very predictable dance competition, but not unmemorable, I guess is what I'll say.
Well, I mentioned earlier, you know, there wasn't really the moment here. I think that Madison Chock and Evan Bates winning is no surprise. No. They won with huge scores. That's no surprise. Madison was notably very ill at this competition, kind of like they were last year. And it is remarkable that she can go out on the ice and light up the way she does while she feels so bad. And so she looks incredible through the whole thing. And then the moment they get done, you see her almost go dizzy. You think she's going to fall down for a moment. And you have Evan checking on her to make sure that she's okay.
Yes. She was noticeably sick in the short program. She had said she was feeling better for the free. And then by the end of it, you just started, at least I did, having watched them for a very long time, saw those little markers of like, she looks good, but there's something off. Like she just doesn't look totally present. And then in their final pose, whenever they did the close-up, she stopped and looked up at Evan and her eyes closed. And it's like, is she going to pass out? She looks so fragile right now. And I've never seen Madison Chock look fragile.
It is an extraordinary testament to their training, to their ability, to their grit, that they could get through those 2 programs as well as they did. All it did was basically just kind of take the shine off of them. They're still brilliant. They're still great performances.
Yeah.
They just don't have that je ne sais quoi that we have seen at other times during the season.
And like the Grand Prix final where they were just like mind-bogglingly good.
Carrere and Ponomarenko took second. No surprise here. They are definitely the second U.S. team. And while they weren't close in the scoring overall, when you look at the total score, they did make it kind of interesting in the free dance because they did a very strong job. I do think that Carmen routine has looked better other times in the season, a little bit more intense, but it was better than the last time we saw it on the Grand Prix. So
I don't know. Yeah. I thought this might have been the best I've seen that free dance personally. That was my take. I like the new costumes much better.
Oh my God. Much better.
Especially Anthony's.
Yeah.
But maybe it was just the crash against the boards whenever she's like going in for him. That was entertaining. But I don't know. I loved their abandon, I guess is what I'll say. Like they looked completely free in that long program and it worked beautifully.
It was very good. It was also nice to see a jump back into the podium position for Carolyn Green and Michael Parsons, who delivered 2 very strong programs. They were tied in third after the rhythm dance, precisely tied with Zingis and Kolsnik, but pulled away in the free with a really strong performance. They looked better here than I've seen them in a long time.
Yes.
And I think that free dance so plays into what they do best, which is a very modern, dancey kind of program. And I'm pretty thrilled for them to get back on the podium here.
Yeah, I mean, they really showed up and wanted to reassert themselves. It was obvious that free dance was the thing that did it for them. It felt so perfect for them. But it is fair to say, like, they only beat Zingis and Kolesnik by about a point. So it was very, very close between them.
Very, very close. And Zingis and Kolesnik, however you say his name, I'm sorry, Vadim, but they shined in the rhythm dance. They were so good.
Brilliant.
And they were really good in the free, but you could tell that it wasn't all there. And they knew it when it finished. They knew that they had not delivered the program that they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a bummer because they had so much momentum going in. But I've seen that free dance from them be just emotionally stirring, just really incredible. Here, it was solid, but it was not that. And like you said, especially Vadim seemed to immediately have that recognition of, no, that wasn't as much as we needed to give it. But a 4th place finish here is still a step forward for them. So they look great. And I am excited to see what we're going to see from them because I expect great things.
Yeah, we saw a nice 5th place finish from Una Brown and Gage Brown. They looked better in the rhythm than they did in the free. And I think that's been kind of the story through a lot of this season, that the free skate is really good, but for whatever reason doesn't tend to thrill the judges in quite the same way. But they did land a little higher here than we were actually expecting based on a lot of the international competition this season. And they delivered like they always deliver. It was really good, just maybe wasn't as standout as it needed to be to get any higher. And then a 6th place finish for Brody and Somerville. We were really wondering if they were competing for silver, but the judges just really didn't seem to care for their rhythm dance for whatever reason. They did far better in the free dance, and I thought they looked great in both of them, but they were maybe a little stiff in the rhythm.
The rhythm, I actually did feel like they were a bit stiff. I didn't see any like major errors, but it just didn't look as great as they typically are. That free skate I thought was incredible. I thought that they were absolutely stunning, and I was a little underwhelmed by their score. Honestly, I was a little surprised. They still came in 5th in the free dance, but I don't know. I thought it maybe deserved a little bit more than they got, but that was just my personal bias maybe.
Kind of wrapping this up, we're not going to dig too far into like what has been decided as far as like the world's teams and stuff yet, because there's some asterisks about them. It's kind of like how the men's includes Jason Brown, who we haven't seen in a while and who pulled out of this event. And that will be based on whether or not he is ready to go at that. The women's includes Isabeau Levito, who we have not seen since Skate America, and will depend on her passing through the ready to play protocol or whatever it is they call it. So there's a little ways before Worlds, and that stuff's kind of in flux. So we will kind of see what happens with all of that. But now with all of that looked at, Gold in Our Hearts.
Oh,
yeah.
I had forgotten all about Gold in Our Heart.
How dare you?
I know.
I know. You always do this to me. I normally, like you normally flip it on me and I wasn't ready for it, but I'm throwing it at you. Who was Gold in Your Heart for U.S. Nationals?
Oh, that's so hard. I mean, I probably need to go with Alysa Liu because that short program was everything. I think I've watched it 4 times already. I sent it to friends that are not skating fans because I wanted them to watch it and be like, this is why I love skating. It's just so, so gorgeous. But if I had a like little extra something, I want to give a shout to Audrichin and Balazs because I'm so thrilled to see the promise that they have, and I cannot wait to see what they do with it.
Well, mine is also Alysa Liu for all those same reasons, because that short program is just mind-blowingly gorgeous. It is just a beautiful, beautiful performance. I think we'll be watching it over and over again for years to come. I would have thrown in Efimova and Mitrofanov, but they won. So they have the gold, so they're good. But again, I have already watched their free skate from the Paris competition a couple of times, and it's so good.
I also want to give a shout to Max Naumov's long program because he had to pop out of his quad and then was perfect after that. I liked that Ben Augusto called it goldfish mind, like a Ted Lasso reference. It was like, okay, I had that problem. Let's pretend that first jump never occurred. And then the rest of it was flawless.
Yeah, you just forget what happened 3 seconds earlier and concentrate on the moment. And yeah, and
it was gutsy.
He made it come together. Yeah, it was really strong. We're not really doing a Europeans preview.
There's no time.
There's no time. We don't have space in this particular one, other than to say that we know that Luna Hendricks is out because she is having surgery, so her season is done, and that Livia Kaiser is not going to Europeans, and she had injury, so I don't know how that's going to affect Worlds.
But we are going to see Adam Shohem-Fa.
Yes.
Which I'm very, very excited to see.
Yeah. So when we come to you next time, it is going to be recapping Europeans. So right off of one big competition to another one, and that starts in a couple of days. So in the comments, if you're in a place where the comments are available to you, let us know who is gold in your hearts. What were your favorite events? How did you feel about the crazy scoring here? Because it was nuts. Yes, we harped on Canada about that, but the U.S. went absolutely banana sandwich crazy with their scores here. So it was pretty wild. But next time that we talk to you, it is going to be about Europeans. I hope you will join us for that one, because I think that's going to be a pretty wild competition on its own. So for Scoreography, I'm Adrian Buskey.
And I'm Wendy Buskey.
And we will talk to you next time.
Bye.